The lights were bright. The cameras were rolling. The audience clapped and cheered as the music played. It was another exciting evening on one of the biggest late-night shows on television. The air buzzed with laughter and energy, but no one in the room knew that something unforgettable was about to happen. First, Keanu Reeves walked onto the stage. He was dressed in his usual black-on-black outfit, simple but stylish. He nodded politely, humble as always, and sat down. The audience roared with excitement. Then came Sandra Bullock, glowing with her usual charm and warm smile. She waved, playful and full of life, and joined Keanu on the couch. The two stars sat side by side, the perfect pair to make the night feel special. The host began with his usual charm, funny, quick, and cheeky. He cracked a few jokes, throwing playful questions toward Sandra. "So, Sandra, you once said Keanu was the one that got away," the host teased with a grin. Sandra laughed nervously. "Oh no, don't start this!" But the host kept going, leaning in with excitement. "Come on now, the two of you in Speed, that chemistry wasn't acting, that was real." The crowd laughed loudly. Sandra smiled awkwardly, trying to brush it off, while Keanu just gave his usual quiet smile. But the host didn't stop. He kept joking, kept teasing, as if he was trying to push them into a flirty story for the cameras. What no one noticed yet was that Keanu's smile was hiding something. There was a look in his eyes that was different, something unspoken, something deeper. Sandra looked light and playful, but Keanu's silence held more weight than the laughter in the room. The night had started with fun and jokes, but something was about to shift. The moment would soon turn from comedy into something raw, something real, and something the world would never forget. The audience was still laughing at the host's jokes, but Sandra and Keanu knew the truth ran deeper than what anyone saw. Their story didn't start on that stage. It went back to 1994, when they met for the first time while filming the action movie Speed. Back then, Sandra was young, energetic, and always full of laughter. She lit up every room she entered. Keanu was different, quiet, thoughtful, carrying himself with a calm seriousness. They seemed like opposites, but when they worked together, something just clicked. They trusted each other, moved like partners, and became close in a way that wasn't about romance, at least not exactly. It was more like a connection that went beyond labels. Sandra later admitted in an interview, "I think I would have dated him if he had asked." Fans were shocked, because years later, Keanu revealed, "I didn't know she felt that way." Their timing was never right. Life kept moving, and even though sparks could have been there, they never crossed that line. But what made their friendship rare was the honesty and the lack of drama. No scandals, no fights, just two people who cared for each other quietly. They didn't need headlines. They didn't need the spotlight. They just stayed in touch over the years, in good times and bad. Sandra went through heartbreaks and challenges. She adopted her son and built her life while still shining as one of Hollywood's favorite stars. Keanu faced deep loss, losing his child, then the love of his life. He carried pain that few could imagine, but he never let it turn him bitter. Through it all, they never let go of the friendship they had formed on that movie set. And now, on this late-night stage, their past hung silently in the air. The host thought it was just playful teasing, but what the audience didn't know was that behind Sandra's smile and Keanu's silence was a history filled with respect, kindness, and unspoken feelings. The joke was supposed to be fun, but the truth waiting to come out was something far more powerful than laughter. Back in the studio, the lights glowed warmly. The host leaned forward with a grin, clearly enjoying the teasing game. He raised his eyebrows and asked the question that made the entire audience lean in. "So, Sandra," he said with a playful twinkle in his eye, "if Keanu asked you out tonight, what would you say?" The audience gasped, then chuckled. It was the kind of bold, flirty question that late-night hosts love to throw out. Sandra raised her eyebrows in surprise, her smile nervous now. She gave a small laugh, unsure how to answer. Everyone turned to look at Keanu, waiting for his usual shy grin or quick joke, but he didn't laugh. He didn't joke. He didn't even look at the host. Instead, Keanu lowered his eyes to his hands, quiet for a long moment. The room grew still. Then, in a soft voice, he spoke words no one expected. "I wouldn't ask," he said. His tone was calm, but there was weight in every syllable. "Not because I wouldn't want to, but because back then, you deserved someone who wasn't broken." The studio froze. You could hear a pin drop. The host's smile vanished, and the audience sat, in silence, shocked. Sandra's smile faded as her eyes filled with tears. Keanu didn't stop. His voice stayed gentle, but each word cut through the air. "I was carrying too much pain," he continued, "and you were a light. I didn't want to dim it." For a moment, it didn't feel like a TV show anymore. It felt like a private conversation, raw, vulnerable and real, playing out in front of millions. Sandra reached over and gently touched his arm, no words needed. The cameras captured everything: the truth, the connection, and the kind of honesty that was rarely seen in Hollywood. The host, usually quick with a comeback, could only clear his throat. "Wow," he whispered, shaken. I wasn't expecting that." No one was. The segment ended quietly, not with loud music or a big laugh like usual. The cameras pulled back as the host tried to recover, but the energy in the studio had completely changed. Sandra and Keanu sat side by side, close but silent, as if the moment still hung in the air. When the show cut to commercial, people were still stunned. No one had expected such honesty. Backstage, the mood was softer. Sandra hugged Keanu tightly, longer than a friend normally would. She whispered, "You weren't broken. You were just honest." Keanu didn't reply with words, but his eyes said more than enough. That was always his way, quiet but powerful. They left the studio separately, but something between them had shifted. By the next morning, the world had seen it. The clip spread like fire across the internet. Headlines popped up everywhere. Keanu Reeves silences talk show with one sentence, and Sandra Bullock's reaction breaks our hearts. Fans clipped the moment, slowed it down, added soft piano music, and shared it on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter. Millions of people watched and rewatched. They weren't just entertained, they were moved. One person wrote, "I've never seen a man protect a woman's dignity so silently." Another comment said, "He didn't need to raise his voice. His honesty said it all." In a world filled with staged drama and fake celebrity moments, this felt real. It wasn't planned. It wasn't a publicity stunt. It was two people sharing a truth that touched hearts everywhere. Sandra gave no interviews about it. Keanu, true to his nature, stayed silent. He didn't post on social media or make statements, but maybe he didn't need to. Sometimes silence says more than words ever could. People began calling it the moment of truth. Fans shared it with their friends, saying things like, "This is what real friendship looks like," and "This is why Keanu Reeves is loved." The story wasn't just about a celebrity crush that never happened. It was about respect, timing, and the kind of bond that outlasts fame. The world couldn't stop talking about it because in that quiet moment, they saw something rare, real human connection. As days turned into weeks, the clip of Keanu and Sandra continued to spread. It wasn't just another celebrity moment. It became a story people shared when they wanted to talk about honesty, friendship, and respect. Students talked about it at school, parents shared it at dinner tables, and strangers online connected over the simple power of Keanu's words. Hollywood is usually full of noise, gossip, rumors, and flashy headlines. But this was different. It was quiet, raw, and unpolished. and that was why people couldn't forget it. In a single sentence, Keanu had reminded the world that strength doesn't always mean being loud. Sometimes strength is being vulnerable, speaking the truth even when it's uncomfortable. Sandra carried herself with grace, too. She didn't laugh off his words or make it awkward. She simply reached out, placed her hand on his arm, and let him know she understood. That moment of connection, without scripts, without cameras telling them what to do, spoke louder than any movie they had ever made together. For fans, it was more than just a sweet Hollywood story. It was a reminder that timing in life matters, that friendships can last longer than fleeting romance, and that dignity is one of the greatest gifts you can give someone you care about. Keanu never followed up with an interview or statement. He didn't need to explain himself. His silence became part of the story. People admired him even more for not turning it into publicity. Sandra also stayed quiet, showing the same respect. Together, they let the moment speak for itself, and maybe that's why it touched so many hearts. Because in a world chasing attention, two friends gave the world something real. If you believe in silent strength, in friendships that stand the test of time, and in honesty over ego, you understand why this story will never fade. Sometimes the quietest people say the loudest things,